race is very much in the ether and has been, and I think we're recognizing it more in a more public way. But the president is also tackling it in a more meaningful way, and we started talking about this in our last segment. But everything from Eric Holder and his pursuit of voter suppression efforts, which target disproportionately minorities, to the mandatory minimum sentencing and trying to strike that down at the federal level, to the president's address and remarks, ad hoc as they were, on Trayvon Martin and race a few weeks ago. I mean, I think he, as America's first black president, is really owning that in a way that he didn't in his first term.
Right, and it will be interesting to see what happens on each of these issues as the second term progresses. There's another possibility here, though, that I think is important that sort of lingers below the level of political rhetoric, and that's the question of what if this country is actually more racist than we acknowledge, right? So in 2008, Annenberg does a big poll around the election, and they ask non-black respondents to rank members of their own race and African Americans on a scale of 1 to 100 on trustworthiness, work ethic, and intelligence. And across the country, not just conservatives, white voters ranked whites 15 points ahead of blacks on each of those measures. That's astonishing. The numbers were, as you might expect, strongest in the Deep South. You know, 6 of the 8 states that were highest on those lists were Louisiana, Mississippi, states like this. One of the things that was interesting to me is that the states that ended up lowest on that list, places where there was the least racism, were not the most liberal states or the most cosmopolitan states. They were the whitest states. They were places like North Dakota and Idaho and northern New England. And so there's this just lingering craziness that still sort of exists out there. And I think one thing that, you know, obviously there's a tactics to the take on Obama. Obviously there's a tactics to the take on voting rights. But it also seems to me like we have to consider the possibility, and I think the president is sort of considering this in some of his rhetoric, that we're just a bit more racist than we like to think.